On the average, this happens 748 times a year in Milwaukee. Water bubbles or gushes up from a crack, split, or hole in the water main. Following the path of least resistance, it generally flows up through cracks or seams in the soil and pavement near the water pipe. Some causes: frost penetration and soil shifting, changes or surges in water pressure, underground utility work, pressure from traffic, normal deterioration from age. Repairing the water main may be the easiest part of this process. A lot has to happen before crews get to this stage.
Okay, normally what we'll do is have an investigator come out and report to the scene and investigate, see what's out there, and if it's a broken water main, we'll throttle the main, which means turn off a few valves and isolate the leak and reduce the water flow.
The water flow is reduced to give customers along that line a chance to draw a temporary supply of water before the flow is stopped.
Before we make a complete shutoff on the water main, we have to notify the public that the water's going to be turned off. So we physically walk the whole area that's in the shutoff, hang notices on the door, ring the doorbells, and let them know that the water's going to be shut off within the next 30 minutes or so. Sometimes we do have locations where businesses need hose connections, which is something totally different. We'll have to have a hose crew come out and hook up a business with temporary water line.
Water can be shut off without notice in an emergency. If the shutoff occurs between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m., the waterworks does not go door to door. And before any work begins, a call goes out to the digger's hotline. The utilities mark gas pipes and other underground cables near the break to prevent damage to them while digging. A call to digger's hotline is required by state law.
On any job, we have to hotline it. And it could take anywhere between an hour, 2 hours before we can dig. And we can't dig until they have marked everything, all the utilities. And that's just for safety purposes.
Once utilities have been marked, the crew proceeds to locate the leak. They know where the water mains are, but the break isn't always where the water leak is apparent. Using a drill rig and punch rods, the crews drill test holes into the pavement to pinpoint the source of the leak. This procedure helps prevent digging in the wrong location and the need for multiple excavations. Once the drill rig has completed its work, a backhoe comes in to break out the street and excavate down to the pipe, generally about 6 to 7 feet below ground. In the winter, it's a challenging job.
Well, if you dress right, it's okay. You know, we have a nice big van now that people can get in and warm up at times, but if you dress right, it's not too bad, you know, especially below ground. When they're in the hole, they're okay, but above ground, it gets a little harsh.
This crew just got a broken main 2 days ago where everybody got soaked. I mean, they were drenched. They literally had to go and change their clothes. I mean, they were soaked all the way through. Their coveralls, t-shirts, socks. So we had to close the job down for a little bit so they could go change. Those are some of the things that can happen in this job.
Before anyone goes down into the excavation, a device called a sheeting box is dropped in to prevent soil from caving in on the workers. Then it's simply a matter of cleaning off the pipe and, in most cases, installing a stainless steel repair clamp. The waterworks crews are called on at all hours of the day and night, and the water is kept flowing to customers by the dedication of workers like Lewis Towns, who's been doing this since 1974.
Yesterday, he worked from 8 until 4:30 and got called at home at 5:30, came back into work, broken main, and worked until about 4 in the morning, went back home for some rest, came back again at 8 o'clock, and here we are on a 12-inch broken main today, which will extend beyond normal 8 hours to get this repaired. In fact, 2 of the crew members had similar time.
The waterworks uses 13 sizes of water mains. Some are 100 years old. Over half are less than 50 years, and there is an ongoing replacement program. They range in size from an 84-inch diameter feeder main to small distribution-size mains as small as 4 inches. Once the repair has been completed, usually the same day the leak is reported, the site is cleaned up as much as possible and the road blacktopped with a temporary patch. Permanent paving and landscaping repairs are completed later. To report a water main break, call the Milwaukee Water Works at 286-3710.
I think there's a lot of things that get taken granted by the citizens, and water is one of the most common things in my opinion. You don't know how much you need it until it's turned off at your house for one reason or another. I don't think that the citizens have a clue on how good we are as far as what we do for the little money that it costs the city and the taxpayers and the people that pay their water bill. The quality work and the expertise that these guys do is very cost effective for the city of Milwaukee.
Each day, up to 150,000 vehicles travel Highway 45. This volume of traffic, combined with the age of the road, has deteriorated the freeway surface.
U.S. Highway 45 is about 40 years old. The pavement is wearing out, and there's safety issues that we have to address out there. And so we need to get out there, rehabilitate the roadway, make improvements to the bridges and the ramps.
In the next 2 years, we're going to refurbish Highway 45 from Lincoln Avenue to County Highway Q in Washington County. This road is in very, very bad condition. In year 2000, we're going to refurbish the southbound roadway, 2001, the northbound roadway.
Once U.S. Highway 45 has been rehabilitated, the motorists will see that they've got a new smooth driving surface. They will have improved ramp facilities to exit and enter the freeway onto. And they will also have renovated bridges. This will give us a freeway that will last another 10 to 12 years.
On April 9th, southbound construction begins in full force. This means from 6 in the morning until 8 at night, one lane of traffic will be closed, and between 8 at night and 6 in the morning, 2 lanes will be closed. By completing most of the construction during nighttime hours, the Department of Transportation hopes to accommodate as much traffic as safely possible. To reach this goal, we need you to revise your drive on Highway 45.
Those of us who live within the city of Milwaukee are going to have to put up with the restrictions and closures like any other motorist. But for City of Milwaukee government, this project means much less of a headache than that caused by the I-94 resurfacing within the city limits in 1997 and 98.
For city residents and neighborhoods and businesses, it shouldn't be quite as bad as the east-west freeway resurfacing job, simply because most of the work and the major impacts are going to be outside of the city. A lot of streets in Wauwatosa and West Allis and the western suburbs are going to be affected a lot more than city of Milwaukee neighborhoods. As far as what we're going to do this year, there is very little in terms of traffic control and mitigation measures that we're going to actually be implementing from the get-go on this project. As far as city facilities go, we're probably going to be impacted most by the work that's going to occur up on the far northwest side of the city. So Good Hope will become a primary means of access, as well as Appleton Avenue to the south. So we're going to be looking at making changes to the system and adding traffic signals and other types of controls on 107th Street as people look to get on the ramps at the Good Hope Road interchange.
Also within city limits, the Silver Spring intersection with Lover's Lane expects to see an increase in traffic. The off-ramp there will remain open. The on-ramp will be closed during peak afternoon hours. Further to the south at Hampton Avenue, both the on and off ramps will remain open. Full-time closures of ramps from Main Street in Menominee Falls to Greenfield Avenue and West Allis will affect southbound commuters throughout the construction. The lane and ramp closures will be posted in advance with dates and times. The Highway 45 work will offer more of a challenge to motorists than I-94, with more bridge and ramp work and very few alternate parallel routes nearby.
As far as the city goes, 91st, 92nd Street will provide some means of alternates for people that drive. 76th Street again is going to be another north-south route that can be used by people, but again it's getting away from the system. And what we found during the east-west freeway is that the majority of traffic is concentrated in the area immediately around the facility. So again, look at Mayfair Road as bearing the burden of the traffic that's diverted from it. We expect that anything that gets diverted onto the north-south streets in the city of Milwaukee should be able to be adequately handled by what we've got out there, with maybe some minor adjustments to traffic signal timings and maybe some lane utilization out in that area.
City expenses related to freeway work are paid for by the state.
Yeah, the state is providing a mitigation contract for us, so they've provided us funds to implement any traffic signal, pavement markings, or signing changes that we have to make to accommodate that traffic. The state's also providing funding for extra police enforcement, and there'll be extra patrols out around the freeway to control the extra traffic that's diverted off the system.
Transportation officials hope to keep motorists informed and moving through their monitor program with closed-circuit TV cameras, overhead message signs, and ramp meters. The Sheriff's Department will again provide enhanced freeway patrols to respond to collisions and push disabled vehicles out of live traffic. If you are in a minor crash or have car trouble, you're asked to try to move your vehicle to a crash investigation site, safer areas off the freeway where you can call for help. Motorists can consider travel alternatives. Use public transit or carpool. Use alternate routes. Avoid US 45 during peak hours. Businesses can promote flex time and telecommuting. City government will be doing what it can.
Like I said, we'll respond to problems as they occur. People are, more than welcome to give us a call if they see problems. We'll take care of them as we have done with all the paving projects we have in the past.
The U.S. Census Bureau counted 628,000 Milwaukee residents in 1990. But officials believe tens of thousands of people here were not counted 10 years ago, and they don't want that to happen again. Milwaukee's grassroots effort will target those populations traditionally undercounted, including African Americans, Hispanics, various Asian communities, the elderly, and the homeless.
If we have an undercount, then our community loses out because we don't get the federal subsidies or the direction of resources to our city in an accurate way.
Now as the numbers go down, then revenue sharing, assistance from the federal government all goes down. That turns out to be a decline or reduction in services that are provided, and that could include anything from lead abatement programs to drug abatement programs to assistance for medical clinics that we have throughout the community, English as a second language classes, GED, adult basic education. I mean, the whole range of services that are now being provided to citizens here in Milwaukee could be reduced as a result of an extremely low count.
Census data is an important tool for local decision-making. The census determines how many seats each state will have in the U.S. House of Representatives. Using census data, federal and state governments distribute billions of dollars in funding to help children, the poor, and the unemployed, the elderly, people without housing, and people with disabilities. And leaders of nonprofit groups use census data to meet the needs of their communities and forecast future needs.
How important is an accurate count in Milwaukee? More than $300 million comes into the city each year based in whole or in part on census information. Milwaukee could lose 2 state assembly seats. Wisconsin could lose a congressional seat. Most households should receive their Census 2000 questionnaires by mail about a week before April 1st. House calls will be made to those not returning forms or if they are incomplete. The form that most people get will be the shortest in 180 years.
By being counted, help determine how many students you have in a school district, and then based on the number of students you have in that school district, they determine the revenue sharing of how much your school district gets.
Emilio fears as many as 30,000 Hispanics could be undercounted this year in Milwaukee. Some may intentionally ignore the form because of a fear that census data would be used against documented or undocumented immigrants. The Census Bureau says you shouldn't worry.
First, Title 13 protects your answers. By law, the Census Bureau cannot share your answers with the IRS, not the FBI, not the INS, not welfare officials, not with the police or the military. No court of law, not even the president, has access to your individual answers.
Very good. Okay.
June Perry says fears about confidentiality are also present in the African American community.
That if I'm counted in the census, then they're going to come after me for child support. They're going to, I'm going to get put out of my dwelling because I'm living unreported with my mother or my sister, and my kids and I are staying here because we don't have anywhere to go, and I don't want anybody to know that because then it'll impact on where I can stay, or it may get somebody in trouble.
June is working to ease those fears and make sure kids in foster homes and the elderly are counted. She applauds an effort this year in schools in which children will be taught about the importance of the census and asked to remind their parents to fill out the forms.
Working to make sure that the schools are involved, that they ask the children in the schools, is their family a part of this, sending information home with the children.
Leaders of the Hmong community in Milwaukee believe about 2,000 Hmong and Laotian residents were not counted in 1990 with the language barrier, a major obstacle.
When the Census Bureau have their enumerators to go to the community and knock on door, because of the language problem and because of the lack of trust, some people won't communicate.
Like other ethnic groups, members of the Hmong community are being employed by the Census Bureau to act as enumerators who visit households that have not returned the census form.
And so they are going to be the one that will be going to the neighborhood to knock on door. And those will be the people who would make phone contact with those people and would communicate with members of the community who might not be able to speak English.
Community leaders are being featured in posters created for the census. They hope their involvement will help gain the trust of Milwaukeeans who are reluctant to fill out the census form.
So when you see these posters being put up throughout the community, you're going to recognize faces on there. It's going to be faces that you know and trust. And with the hope that people will say, I can believe him, I can believe her, I will get my form and I will fill it out.
In most African American communities, Tom, personal relationships are very important. People respond to people that they know, have some sense of trust and identification with. Maybe that will help.
Anyone who is concerned about the census form because of literacy, language, or privacy concerns can get their questions answered at community agencies throughout the city.
There are a number of outreach workers that will, again, be bilingual, whether it's Hmong, Laotian, Hispanic, or some other language, to make sure that people are getting all of the assistance that they need and that they understand what it is that they're filling out. Anywhere where there's a community-based organization, people should not be afraid to enter and ask for help regarding the census.
The Census Bureau will report the population figures to President Clinton in December. States will receive their population counts in early 2001. In 1990, the grassroots effort to make sure all Milwaukeeans were counted resulted in 30,000 more people than estimated by the Census Bureau. That effort is even greater in 2000.
I think people should participate fully, and I think it's to their benefit as well.
For all the Hispanics here in the city, as my friend Oscar De La Hoya says in his commercial, hágase contar.
All kids count, all parents count, all of us count.